Hello everyone, welcome back to LaExcellence Bengaluru Presents Current Issue of the Day episode number 185. Today we will discuss a significant geopolitical event that is happening or unfolding right in front of us. That is with respect to India and USA relations. What was supposed to be a golden time for both relations are turning into be a dark times because of Donald Trump. Okay, so the heading of today's video is Ukraine war is Modi's war. Why is it so? Recently, an important American delegate has said that the Ukraine's war is nothing but a war of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. We will see what made him use these words and what is the implications of using such words, and also we'll discuss what are the impacts of recent moves by Donald Trump. So we'll discuss the background to this trade war between India and USA, impacts and way forward. So in GS2 syllabus, IR, India and US relations, strategic autonomy and multipolarity, and GS3 economy, trade, energy security. So the context is USA trade advisor Peter Navarro called Ukraine conflict as Modi's war, accusing India of arrogance and profiteering. He claimed that Indian tariffs harm US workers, consumers, and taxpayers. So these are some very provocative statements, as you can see, that calling another country's war as Indian Prime Minister's war. So we'll discuss what are the background here first. The Trump administration of the USA imposed 25% secondary sanctions on Indian goods for its continued purchase of Russian oil. In addition to this, they had already put 25% reciprocal tariffs on India. So, what does this mean? 25 initial plus 25% penalty, meaning 50% tariff has been increased on Indian goods, which came into effect from August 27. Washington argues, that is the USA argues, that India is profiteering by buying discounted Russian crude oil, refining it and exporting the refined products, especially from the facilities like Wadina refinery in Gujarat. What they are saying is India is buying from Russia at a cheaper rate, and then it is refining it, and then it is reselling it at higher price. So what was supposed to be a sanctions on Russia, India is providing a leeway or way out for Russia and then using that opportunity to get profit out of it. That is called as profiteering. That is what US argues. But according to India, India is buying cheaper oil. India is buying cheaper oil from Russia because it is going to help in India's energy security or strategic autonomy. Okay, that is what India's argument is. Okay, next, the difference of opinions. Okay, just like how if any move is taken by the government of India, there will be a difference of opinions from the opposition party. Similarly, there has been a difference of opinion from within USA as well as of outside USA as well. Okay, outside USA as well. First, we will discuss from the USA point of view. That is, US Treasury standpoint says that the Secretary Scott Bessent, he calls India and USA is a complicated relations at the moment. He criticized India's delays in trade talks, continued Russian crude purchases as a reason for this complicated relation. Then the Democratic Party pushback. That is, Trump belongs to Republican, and this Democratic Party is the opposition party in USA. They called Trump for singling out India when China imports more Russian oil. See here, they're pointing out to China. This is an artificially like AI generated image. So these are all the USA congressmen who are pointing to China, saying that why are you having a partition attitude towards India and China? Both China and India are purchasing oil from Russia. India is purchasing 32% of oil from Russia, whereas China is purchasing more than 50% oil from Russia. Despite that, there is no retaliatory sanctions on China, whereas you are only singling out India. They also called it as harmful to US interest, businesses, and the strategic India-US partnership. Okay, so you can see not all from USA are senseless people. There are some people who have certain common sense as well. Okay, next, former officials concern. That is Kenneth Jester, who is former US ambassador to India, and Mark Linscott, who was a trade negotiator, warned this situation could derail a win-win situation between a relationship between India and USA into a lose-lose situation. Why is the lose-lose situation? What is the loss for India? India is going to lose profits or revenues that were coming out of the exports, because now Indian goods will become uncompetitive. When they are uncompetitive, there will be lesser buyers. Buyers will be less. What is the loser for USA? The consumers. Because of this extra tariffs, the goods will become costly. These goods will become costly. When these goods become costly, obviously it is going to impact the consumers. Obviously it is going to result in inflation. So it is going to be a lose-lose situation. So they have to act early and act fast. Urged diplomacy with hopes of Trump Modi meeting at United Nations General Assembly in September 2025. Okay, next, analysis of these moves. First, we'll discuss what will be the economic implications, and then we'll discuss geopolitical implications as well. First, the economic implications. India, 50% tariff threaten India's exports to USA, hurting sectors like textiles, steel, and engineering goods. First, we'll discuss important sectors that have been impacted by economic sanctions. First is shrimp. There was a recently an editorial which discussed about important sectors that are going to be affected by this the 50% tariffs. So shrimp or seafood, it exports around 2.4 billion to USA, which is almost 33% of the shrimp exports. So now tariff have risen from 10% to 60%. What has been the impact? The immediate impact has been the shrimp purchase prices in Andhra Pradesh are down by 20% already, meaning there are lesser buyers of Indian shrimps now. Next is the most impacted sector is diamonds, gold, jewelry. Export is around 10 billion, out of which 40% is of the sector's exports go to USA. So tariff from 2.1 to 52% one. So obviously what is going to happen? There have been production cuts in Surat where 12 lakh people are employed in polishing in Surat. So obviously it is going to have impact on employment as well. Next, textiles and apparels. Exports 10.8 billion, 35% of apparel exports. Tariff is around 13.9 to 63.9. So in Tirupur, rushing shipments, cancelling the new sales, etc. And in Noida and Gurugram, the similar thing is happening in Noida and Gurugram as well. Next, sectors with moderate impact, such as organic chemicals, where it exports 2.7 billion dollars, that is around 13.2% of exports. So tariff is around 4 to 54%. So obviously the buyers are less for chemical goods from India now. Next is the metal, steel, and aluminum, 4.7 billion, that is 17% of the total export. USA, though not the largest market, but it is still critical for small and medium enterprises in National Capital Region and Eastern Foundries. Next is the machinery and mechanical appliances. Exports is around 6.7 billion, which is around 20% of the total exports. So obviously demand is expected to dip, hitting engineering exporters as well. Okay, so this is economical angle. And also for USA, higher tariffs means costlier imports. Costlier imports, which is going to hurt American consumers because the inflation is going to increase. Okay, so oil trade. India's refining of Russian crude provides affordable energy and export revenue, but also exposes to sanctions risk. So that is what happened in this case. It was exposed to sanctions from Russia. Okay, next, what is the geopolitical angle? So in the last 10 to 15 years, one of the major changes in the geopolitics of the world was India and USA relation. India and USA started moving closer, and the relationship was on the high from 1995 or almost 2000. From 2000s to 2020s, the relationships was almost on the high. It went on increasing, went on increasing. But with the Trump recent move, it threatens to hamper this growth and relationship. So the US branding of Ukraine conflict as Modi's war is diplomatically provocative, potentially straining Quad cooperation and strategic trust as well. So you can see it is not only impacting India and USA direct relations, but also the regional relations. regional relations as well. What is Quad? Quad is a strategic grouping of India, USA, Japan, and Australia. So if the two of the key members are fighting head on, then obviously there will be no use of other two members as well. So this group is going to lose its relevance. And India is being equated with authoritarian regimes like Russia and China, which is a sharp rhetorical escalation right at the moment. Okay, this was not the case previously. Like the rhetorics was there, but it was not very sharp or it was not very stringent as it is now. Okay, next is Democrats highlighting China's bigger role in Russian oil trade shows partition splits within the US politics. Okay, so similarly in India, that whatever India has something like there will be opposite opinion of UPA, similar thing is happening in US as well. Next, domestic angle, that the Modi government may project this as India's strategic autonomy under attack, and opposition could highlight economic cost of confrontation. So, like Prime Minister Modi has said, we should go vocal for locals. Vocal for locals, where we have to follow the Chinese model. What is the Chinese model? Develop a market, that is develop a domestic market actually. Develop a domestic market so big that it is able to provide consumers for all the goods that are being produced. Meaning there is no need for exporting the goods that are being produced in India because the consumer base is already available in India. That is what China did in its early 1980s to 1990s when China was facing scrutiny from the world, especially from the West and the USA. China went for domestic production and domestic consumption, which resulted in a cyclical growth of China. So India should also go for vocal for locals. Next, what is the ethical legal dimension out of this? That is, it raises certain secondary sanctions. So questions as well. Are they unilateral coercive measures undermining the sovereignty of India? Yes, it is. And do they violate WTO principles of non-discrimination? Obviously, yes. So even in the ethical level, USA is on the wrong side here. Next, implications for India and USA relations. It could trigger trade retaliation from India, obviously, because it is not that only India is exporting to USA. USA does exports to India as well. So India can bring retaliatory tariffs here. It risks damaging strategic partnership, especially amid China's rise. All these anti-China measures taken by India and USA and all the Japan, Australia, etc., countries is going to be of no use now. May push India closer to China and Russia in the short term, though both sides likely want to avoid the long-term rupture. Okay, so these are the implications. So what has been the response of the government? In the short term, there has been a multi-ministry support package under discussion at the moment, and RBI is also ready to step in with credit and forex easing so that the exports become more competitive. And the medium term would be pushing for vocal for local. That is what I explained already. Next, diversify the export destination. That is, we can search for alternative export destinations such as South America, Africa, and Europe, etc., and expanding the free trade agreement leverage between USA, not USA, maybe European Union, UK, Russia, etc., etc. Next, so the way forward should be, there should be diplomatic engagement. All the sides should sit together and bring the escalation down. That should happen in the UNGA in September. Issue linkage strategy, that is, India can negotiate oil trade in return for progress on the market access and trade deals. Okay, because we are negotiating a free trade agreement with USA, a free trade agreement with USA. If you want us to provide more market access, then provide, like, let us or allow us to procure more oil from the Russia. Next, multilateral shield, that is using WTO or G20 to resist unilateral sanctions. You should use these sanctions or use these groupings to bring pressure on Russia, like USA. However, that is most unlikely because, like, even if USA agrees to this, Trump is not going to agree to this. Okay. Next, diversification. So India may reduce marginal Russian imports to use US pressure while safeguarding the energy security. Okay. So this is a holistic coverage of this India and USA trade issues. Okay. If you like the video, then please hit the like button, comment on it, and also share with your friends. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon so that you don't miss a notification. With this, I will end the video. Jai Hind.